Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I was on Easter Island in 2016. It's a mystical place, with huge moai statues that are up to 15 meters tall and weigh 80 tons. How they were built and moved to the shores of the island, made to stand, is a mystery, because there's no trace of them being pulled. The only source, and stone mill where they were built, was in the middle of the island. Anyways, everything is torn down and buried into the ground. Only recently have they erected a few of the moai again. There are signs of huge monolithic temples, which seemed ancient and very similar to those in Peru. Huge blocks of stone. There's only remnants left of it today. We camped near a place called Anakina, and the campsite was surrounded by rubbles of volcanic rocks. As we took a closer look, we noticed that these had used to be parts of buildings and temples. Some even had intricate details of them. And then I found pick-related. I quickly covered in a towel and took it with me. I was thinking of taking it to the Kontiki Museum, but when I went there, they didn't have anything close to the size of what I had sailed half around the world with. I've decided to keep it. Modern historians claim that the moai and its culture were created by the Polynesian only a few hundred years ago, but later research shows that this is not the case. It was most probably built by the Peruvians, the Inca or probably Nazca culture, which is way older. I have no one to ask about this thing because it's illegal to have it and take it from the island, so I guess I will just keep it in a wooden box in my attic with some straw in it. You can see it is clearly hastily chiseled down. It looks like a mural that used to be on a temple wall. It's made of the same volcanic rock as the moai statues there. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I guess I'm just shooting in the dark. Their whole system was based on something called Tangatu Manu, a birdman cult. The moai protected the island with their mana, and it said that actual giants used to live there.
In June of 1989, I was 12 years old. I lived in a big house with a beautiful rose garden out front and had a fancy car, and even all of the toys I'd ever wanted. Every summer, my family would go on vacation to Florida, South Carolina, Hawaii, wherever we wanted to go. That year, we went to Easter Island. But anyways, we rode a boat there. It was perfectly fine on the way there. No trouble at all. Sure, my little brother and pregnant mom got seasick, but that was all. We had a tour guide who would assist us when we arrived at the island. Unfortunately, the weather got bad when we were about halfway there. The captain of the ship, Captain Dotson, assured us we would still be able to arrive at the island safely. He lied. When we went to sleep that night, we awoke to the ship violently thrashing about. Captain Dotson came to tell us there was little chance we'd be able to make it to Easter Island. He said he was turning around immediately because he was hoping the weather would lighten up. The next thing I knew, there was a flash of lightning and then darkness. I didn't see anything, but I heard my mom screaming, my little brother crying, Captain Dotson's heavy footsteps frantically running around, the tour guide yelling at my mom. I heard a sharp crack. I heard gushing water. I didn't think much of it until my mom screamed at me to wake up. My eyes snapped open. There was a crack in the boat's flooring. The boat was sinking. I leaped out of bed, but we all just stood there because there wasn't anything to do. We had no lifeboats, life vests, nothing. I felt the cold water swirl around my ankles. Captain Dotson and the tour guide just stood there, paralyzed from fear. My mom and little brother were huddled together. Mom was frantically asking Captain Dotson where the lifeboats were. He didn't answer. And that's when it happened. The boat tipped over. We were all submerged. I guess I must have passed out because when I woke up, we were all washed up on a beach. Mom was sitting with some strange people. They looked like Indian tribes people. A very old one whose name was Chilali or something like that was talking in very broken English. She said she and her tribe were the only ones on the island. That's when I noticed something terrible. Her teeth were sharpened to a fine point. Her arms had strange tattoos up and down them. They were tribal tattoos. The strange thing is, she had a foreign one on her back. It was one of those mom tattoos that was in a heart. Not only that, her nails were long, very long. They were completely white too. Several blood vessels in her left eye were busted open. It seemed as if nearly everyone in the tribe looked like this, minus the mom tattoo. Most of the children had blood on them. Chilali said everyone had just finished their meal. I didn't think much of it. They probably ate a deer or something. That's when I heard Chilali say something to an equally old man sitting next to her. She said something along the lines of, "Escort lady and young child into the dining place. Take the old man, drowned, and child to the praying field. We have a feast tonight." That's when I realized Chilali's whole tribe probably spoke English, and the tour guide was drowned and a little bloated. That's when the old man and a few young adults grabbed Captain Dotson, the tour guide's body, and started carrying us off. Mom screamed for them to return to us, but Chilali quickly silenced her by scratching her with her nails. When they dragged us off to a grassy plain, they threw us down quite forcefully. The old man said, "Hello? You're quite surprised we're doing this, eh? Well, I'm Neil, or William if you like. That was my British name. I'll give you a general idea of what's happening. You bunch crashed here. Poor guy here didn't make it, did he? Well, anyways, I came here in the early 30s with my wife Melanie, or as you know her, Chilali. We were tired of our society. We were a bit obsessed with Native Americans. We sailed off here where there was a tribe. We thought, excellent, this is absolutely excellent. But we were wrong. The tribe leader back then died by a wolf mauling. He made Chilali the leader. We didn't know where to find the food. The woods were rich with insects, but nearly none of them were edible. The fish around the island weren't edible either. So we had to resort to the very little fruits in the trees around us. We had a few vegetable seeds. Of course, after a while we ran out. That's when we had to resort to cannibalism and eating grass, wildflowers, whatever we could find. We didn't eat each other, but occasionally we'd build rafts and try to go out into society and lure people to our island. It rarely worked. We only managed to get 3 people. A special needs boy, an 8-year-old child, and we found a drowned person floating around. This drove Chilali to madness. She often had bizarre fits of rage and delusions. She insisted she was only beautiful if her teeth were sharp and she had tattoos on her arms. She refused to keep her nails short. She ordered everyone to look like this, and so everyone did. I suppose her brain was damaged because she nearly forgot how to speak English. The problem is she ordered everyone to speak English. I had to teach them. And now, here we are. I really don't want to kill the lady and the child. It's not my choice, though. Don't be too worried, though. You all will be set free. So there's always that, yes. Anywho, we must get going. Dinner will probably be ready any moment now. At that point, they all dragged us to a sandy part of the island. What I saw made me vomit instantly. My mother was being roasted over a roaring fire. She was still alive. She was kicking, screaming. They sliced her stomach open, pulled out my would-be sibling, her guts, some of the meat. My brother was already fully cooked. My mother went quiet and finally died. The people waited until she turned brown and put out the fire. They probably left her hanging above the ashes to let her cool down. William turned to us and said, "I'll have some people build a raft for you 2 later. You'll have to spend a couple of nights here, though." And so we did. The ride home wasn't fun. The raft unsurprisingly broke. Captain Dotson went into shock and sunk to the bottom of the ocean like a stone. I swam and swam and swam for what seemed like forever, until my legs cramped up and I went underwater. I thought I had died until I woke up in the hospital. A couple of fishermen found me and took me to Easter Island, where I was nursed back to health. I couldn't remember who I was or what happened until 3 years later. Then it hit me like a rock. I told them about it all. A few people sailed out to the island and took me with them. We came upon an island where I recognized the scenery. The tribe had completely vanished, or should I say, died off. We went a bit deep into the woods and sure enough there were bones everywhere. But I still, to this day, don't know if those were just cannibalism victims or part of the tribe.
Be 7 or 8. I lived on Easter Island for almost all of my childhood until I'm 17, almost 18, because I'm half Chilean, half Rapa Nui, ethnic culture of Easter Island, living in my grandfather's house with my dad, mom, little sis, and an American tourist who's renting my grandfather's room. Grandfather is sleeping outside the house in a camp. Be very friendly with the tourist. He stayed like 3 weeks. One night, a tourist came to the house a little nervous. When he came, electricity in the house was no more. Mom and Dad, the fuck.jpg, call him outside the room's door. He's locked inside. My grandpa comes too. He gets out of the room with his backpack and enters my parents' room. I'm looking from the door. They're speaking in English. Can't understand shit. Suddenly he stops talking. He can't breathe. Everybody. What the fuck.mpg? Everybody shit bricks when he flew outside the window. Mom. No. .flv. Grandpa takes me, little sis, and Mum and gets us off the house. Electricity is back. Dad jumps outside the window to help the tourist. Last thing I saw was the tourist in the grass being asphyxiated by an invisible hand. Grandpa takes me and my little sis to a cousin's house to pass the night. When I grew up, they told me that the tourist stole some precious archaeological shit from a sacrificial place on the island, and a spirit followed him to take things back. My grandpa's sisters went there to save the tourist and tell him to leave the island and never come back. Crazy shit like that all the time. B13. Sleeping at cousin's house. Video games till 3 a.m. Went to the room to sleep. Lights out, talking about shit, starting to fall asleep. Suddenly, out of nowhere, .jpg someone or something falls on the roof and starts running from the other side of the house to the side we were on. Open eyes looking at each other. The runner jumps from the roof to the woods behind the house. Fucking woods noise. Nope.mkv. To this day, we can't explain what happened there, or how someone could jump straight to the roof of a 2.5-meter house in the middle of nowhere and then jump to the woods, especially with the wall of bamboos 5 meters tall. Fucking nope. One more. B15. Living at another house with my mother and sis because my dad and mum were separated. Woke up in the middle of the night and saw a shadow man, woman, with long black hair in front of my bed. Think that's my mother. Mum, the fuck are you doing there? Having no response, I fell asleep again. Next morning, little sis told me she saw a shadow man or woman with long hair sneaking on the floor by the side of her bed. She was scared, but made no noise. She says the shadow gets into my room, which is actually a little side room for my sis room. Told me she thinks I was scaring her. Nope.png mother came in and told us that she saw that shadow in her room first and that she feels it very often. Nope.x. My mother then asked the church's father to clean the house of evil spirits or shit. I'm not Catholic, but he did his job very well. There are no raccoons on Easter Island. The only animals that exist there are dogs, cats, horses, sheep, cows, and different types of birds. Not big birds, average in size. The house's roof is made of aluminium. Because of the heat, the houses in Easter Island are made with very simple materials, and you can hear everything that's happening outside the house. And it sounded like human steps, 2 footsteps, not like animals running in 4, and sounded like a very heavyweight thing. Even the dog was thrilled the night. Be alone at my department in Santiago, Chile. Be like 4 or 5 months ago. TV is on a chair. 4 a.m., no more 4chan, time to sleep. Turn off my notebook and turn back to sleep. 2 minutes. Boom noise. TV is fucking on the ground, baby. I say, what the fucking fuck? Turn back. TV is still in the chair. Nothing in the room has changed or moved. Nope.flack. I stayed up for a couple of hours. Can't get any sleep. My sis says that weird things have happened to her in that room, but not too often. Again, on Easter Island. This one is related to UFOs. B14. Be in cousin one's house with friends and shit, doing funny shit, chill, video games, the glory times. By 3 a.m. I was going to stay at cousin 2's house, so we went home to sleep. Direction to go is cousin 1's house. 30-meter road, my dad's house. Dark woods road of 10 meters distance, cousin 2's house. Yes, my family lives together because the island is very small. Went through the dark woods. Everything begins to turn red. A red light is coming from nowhere. Look at the sky. Shiny red fire cylinder flying above us at an average speed. Nope, Nope. So scared, can't fucking scream like a man, feels bad man. GIF. Run at the speed of light to cousin 2's house. Knock door like hell. At that time, the UFO had disappeared. Auntie opens windows angry as hell for us waking her up. What the fuck are you two doing? Fucking fire UFO above the house. Auntie opens the door and gets us in and asks us to explain. We explain. She said my uncle, who was sleeping, saw a thing like that a night many years ago. She said we have to get back to sleep and that we need to begin to accept the kind of weird things that happen often on the island. We went to sleep. Nope. Next day, some people who were in discotheques saw the shit, believing they were high or drunk. Me and cousin 2 don't drink or smoke, never. In year 2009, many of my classmates went to the school and told me that in the afternoon of the day before, they saw a red light like a star traveling at average speed from the east side to the west side of the island. Many people saw it in a soccer game. When the star was far in the horizon, it disappeared underwater. It lasted for almost 5 minutes. When I and my cousin meet, we always speak of these things. We still remembering shit that happened to us. B16. Lurking in a forest with 2 friends. Forest is near the airport. 2 hours walking and having a good time. I saw a red bag, a very big bag in the dirt by the side of a tree. Notice my friends and go there. Suddenly, a loud noise coming from nowhere, just like a dinosaur or monster or don't fucking know what. Nope. Can't be an airplane or something, because in Easter Island, there is only 1 flight per day, excepting for some days in the week. But this was a weekend, and I know when the airport is open. I say, come on, it's just a noise. I take the bag and kick it to guess what's inside. Heavy and solid. When I try to open it with a knife, it goes again. Raw.mp3. Nope. We stand still. Nobody is near. No airplane. No soul. No nothing. Raw.wav. Run out of there. Almost 2 minutes running. Can't explain shit. 2 weeks later, the forest turns into ashes because of a fire. Nobody knows the reasons for the fire, or how it started, or who did it. Weird shit.
Back in 2013, I had an extremely serious case of the flu. I passed out at a movie theater and a friend had to drive me home. According to him, multiple times I said I felt like he was dying. I thought he meant I said I felt like I was dying, but he insisted I said he was. He assumed I was delirious. After he got me home and in bed, he crashed for a while since his work was close. At 2:04 a.m., however, it stuck out to me he remembered the time. To me, that suggested what happened was strange enough that he bookmarked it in his head. I came downstairs. He was expecting me to be as out of it as before, but apparently I was pretty lucid and alert. I sat in silence for a long time, until I eventually looked at a small wood painting of Easter Island I have near the stairs and became entranced. His words. He said I began describing a near-future event in vivid detail concerning something I called Oddits, which were apparently aliens. I said that they made those, Easter Island heads, and that they would be coming back soon to check on us. He said he asked me a bunch of specific questions, about if they were friendly, older than us, etc. I gave simple answers like, yeah, and of course. He told me he was half messing with a dazed me, but also half curious and genuinely interested. What really creeped him out, though, was me interrupting him at one point and saying, it's going to change a lot. He said he'd never heard me use this tone of voice before, not really loud or angry, but like I was using my full voice, again, his words, and that I sounded beyond convinced. After this, I was silent, then eventually went back to bed. He heard me use the bathroom and get some water on the way. We talked about this for a while, and the more we did, the more important it began to feel. We talked about prophecy, near-death experiences, and out-of-body stuff. My mother was also very curious about this stuff, although not a strong believer in any of it. I called her maybe a month or 2 later, not to tell her what happened, just to talk. I did get around to it eventually, though, and when I mentioned the name Oddits, she laughed and said, "Oh Lord, not them again." I asked what she meant. She said years ago she took me to the house of a friend of hers. I was 3 or 4 then. At some point, her friend showed her a picture he took of what he believed was a UFO.
I was on her lap. While she was looking, I took one glance and said, "It's the Oddits." She said I sounded really excited, like I knew them or had met them before. I asked if I mentioned any details, but being a kid, I apparently kind of lost focus and forgot about it. I have absolutely no memory of this, but the way she recalled it in so many details really left me kind of spellbound. I've thought about it every time I see alien threads on /x/. It really makes me feel like these unexplainable connections our brains make shouldn't be ignored. Even if it's just brain noise and babble, it's still really interesting to me.
Sounds like you are just remembering earlier lives in which you encountered these Oddits. You are not you are an infinite soul having an experience as you right now. When you die, you will either move on or be reincarnated into some other person that might have a different experience.
The heads were likely a monument to prevention of attack, and had clearly sunk into the soil, as per tectonic plates. They've been radiocarbon dated as being 500 years old. While it may be considered a sacred site from an ancient civilization, their peering out at the ocean makes me think that they were there as guardians against new threats in spiritual forms.
Interesting. I just found this information. The island is believed to be the summit of an immense mountain formed by the outpouring of molten volcanic rock from the seafloor. It rests on a submarine platform some 50 or 60 meters below the ocean's surface, but 15 to 30 kilometers off the coast, the platform ends and the ocean floor drops to between 1,800 and 3,600 meters. Easter Island owes its roughly triangular shape to the three volcanoes located at its corners, Poik, Rano Kau, and Teravaca. In addition to these main volcanic centers, there are at least 70 subsidiary eruptive centers. The oldest lava flows have been dated at up to 3 million years old, but more recently lower dates of half to 3/4 of a million years have been published. Some scientists think the earliest lavas of Easter Island, now well below sea level, erupted around 4.5 to 5 million years ago. Legend describes Easter Island as having once been part of a much larger country. Successive ice ages during the Pleistocene have lowered sea level by at least 100 m and possibly far more at times, and Easter Island would then have been larger than it is today. According to the ruling geological paradigm of plate tectonics, Easter Island has never been part of a sunken continent. However, the plate tectonic model is challenged by a mountain of evidence. Seismic tomography, which produces 3D images of the Earth's interior, has shown that the oldest parts of the continents have very deep roots extending to depths of 400 kilometers or more, and that the asthenosphere is absent or very thin beneath them. Even under the oceans, there is no continuous asthenosphere, only disconnected asthenospheric lenses. In addition, the boundaries of the main plates are sometimes ill-defined or non-existent. These crucial facts, which go largely unmentioned in modern geological textbooks, render the large-scale lateral movement of individual plates impossible. From Jacob Roggeveen's journal, 1722. The first assessment of the statues contains an assumption. What the form of worship of these people comprises, we were not able to gather any full knowledge of, owing to the shortness of our stay among them. We noticed only that they kindle fire in front of certain remarkably tall stone figures they set up, and thereafter squatting on their heels with heads bowed down, they bring the palms of their hands together and alternately raise and lower them. At first, these stone figures caused us to be filled with wonder, for we could not understand how it was possible that people who are destitute of heavy or thick timber, and also of stout cordage, out of which to construct gear, had been able to erect them. Nevertheless, some of these statues were a good 30 feet in height and broad in proportion. This perplexity ceased, however, with the discovery, on removing a piece of the stone, that they were formed out of clay or some kind of rich earth, and that small, smooth flints had been stuck over afterwards, which are fitted very closely and neatly to each other, so as to make up the semblance of a human figure. Moreover, one saw reaching downwards from the shoulders a slight elevation or prominence which represented the arms, for all the statues seemed to convey the idea that they were hung about with a long robe from the neck right down to the soles of the feet. They have on the head a basket heaped up with flints painted white deposited in it. Who then goes on to describe the aridity of the land, their primitive dwellings and lack of tools and materials. Also this, Monday the 6th of April, 1722. The President submitting that we had now arrived within a distance of some 2 miles of the sandy island, the which lies in an easterly direction from the stretch of coast, as yet out of sight, which it is one of the objects of this expedition to discover, and as we have seen smoke ascending in several places, from which it may reasonably be concluded that the aforementioned island, although it may be shown to be sandy and barren, has nevertheless human inhabitants. Now, therefore, the President moves that it would be culpable to proceed in a careless and negligent manner, and that we should stand off and on for tonight with our ships, and that on the arrival of daylight we send close in to the land 2 well-manned shallops, properly armed, that we may be in a state of defense in case of any hostile meeting, and show all friendliness towards the inhabitants.
During my research, I found it beneficial to completely ignore what has been written up as fact in regard to sacred sites, since the people who wrote it weren't there when it happened. So much disinformation has been spread based on opinion and assumption that is, well, we found some tools so humans must have done it. Broad generalization there. It's really quite revealing in terms of how historians and archaeologists think their assumptions are always right. I prefer to seek another answer that actually makes, believe it or not, scientific sense. I have found the most absurd explanation is sometimes the right one. What is the deal with the heads on Easter Island? Were they cut from a mold? Why are they standing there? Not what you've read. Ask this question fresh as if you never knew anything about them.
Dude, history literally is about taking pieces of a massive puzzle and trying to fit them together into a way that makes sense. No fucking historian worth a shot has ever claimed their assertions as fact. It's all about observation and using what knowledge we have to piece together the narrative of human history. We still find new pieces that contradict previous assumptions, and we update the puzzle appropriately to get the more accurate representation. History literally is assumption, but it's not ass-pulling like you foolishly believe. It's assumption based on what we gather. It's using clues to try to solve the mystery. The funny thing about your post is you are doing exactly what you think historians are doing, making baseless ass-pulling assumptions. In your case, assuming that history is about a bunch of regards claiming they're right and you know better, even though clearly you have not the faintest fucking clue. Have you ever been to Easter Island? Have you ever read a single damn thing about it? We do not quite know yet why the heads exist, as we are lacking appropriate pieces to attempt solving it. But what we aren't doing is ass-pulling stupid fucking shit to force what will definitely be a baseless, unreliable narrative. Please do not post any more of this stupid shit, because I truly fear that with the type of idiots on this board, your asinine view of history will run off on them too.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.